It's just like I don't need to go home now. Home is uh, heaven has come to me now. Heaven is a presence for me that has it enables me to live a life of service.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel within. I'm Mira, and today I'm excited to be talking to Peter Panagore about his NDEs with an emphasis on the after effects, the impact on his life, his inward spiritual journey, mysticism, and mystical experiences, as well as service to others and yoga, all of which come directly from the first one. Welcome, Peter, and thank you for being here with me today.
Hi, Mira. Thanks for having me today, especially that it's early morning and you could be doing something else. Thanks for being here today.
The feeling is mutual. So, how do you want to get started? Do you want to talk about life before, or do you want to dive right into the first one?
I was raised outside of Boston in a Catholic Greek Orthodox family, so kind of 50-50. But went to both places, and they were always talking about why the other one was wrong. And when I was growing up, I had several mystical experiences before my first near-death experience. I seemed to have come into the world with a capacity, not of my own development, but a capacity where I would have these. I had about five or six of them before I died. I didn't understand what they all meant until after I died. And then it was like looking in hindsight, I could see how, oh, this one taught me this, and this, which prepared me for this near-death experience. Of course, I didn't know that's where I was headed. So I went to Catholic school and I studied the Bible, a class a year, a gospel a year. And after my NDE, the Jesus that I met in the Catholic curriculum was not the same Jesus I figured out after I died. He, to me, sounded like a near-death experiencer. He sounded like he had a similar life. Anyway, so I was 20 years old, and I was in Montana as an exchange student, and I had some family trouble at home. My sister had vanished when I was a kid, run away, destroyed my family, and I didn't want to go back. So I decided to do something adventurous. I was an adventurous person. So I spent a lot of time in the outdoors, in the wilderness, in the cold, skiing and mountain climbing and all this kind of stuff. And so I went on this ice climb, 10-day trip into British Columbia and Alberta, snow caving, backpack, skis, wilderness, deep cold with a guy that from the university who was also skilled in this. We didn't really know each other before. We got to know each other really well on this trip. So after all these days of snow caving and backcountry skiing, we went to this ice climb, and it was my first ice climb. I had been technical on a rock. My name is Pan, Peter Panagore, and Pan, the goat-footed flautist from Greek mythology. I'm kind of goat-footed when it comes to climbing and things. At least I was when I was young. So it was not a big reach for me to go on an ice climb instead of just regular rock. But I didn't have all the gear that I needed. So I borrowed and I rented and I came up with everything I needed except for a second axe. You have to have two axes. I could only come up with one axe. I came up with an ice hammer, which is significantly shorter. It's used for chipping out space where you put the ice screw in and also applying the ice screw as a lever and taking it out. It has a strap on the bottom that you can dangle off of your waist and put your wrist through so you don't lose the thing. And the same with the ice axe, had a strap kind of a third of the way up or so that you could set it in the ice. I could set it in the ice and let go and dangle on it and rest. This is a world famous ice climb. I'll spare all the details, except for to say that this decision that I made with the reluctant support of Tim, who was a certified ice climb leader, it caused my death. So it slowed my climb down because I couldn't rest on this hammer. I had to grip it the whole time, and my stride of the length of my reach was shorter, so it took me much longer to climb. And by the time we reached the top of the climb, about 500 or 600 feet up on this 10,000 plus foot mountain, it was sunset. And it's unlike backpacking where it's getting late, it's raining, we can turn around and go down the same trail we just came up. You can't do that in ice climbing. You have to follow the route. So I slowed us down, knew partway up that we were in serious trouble. I should say I was the first responder on this trip. I was the first aid guy. I'd been in the ski patrol. So I knew before we even reached the top that we were in serious trouble. So we reached the top, sun sets, temperature drops 30 degrees, hypothermia sets in almost immediately because it's a sweaty sport. I was warm all the way going up because it was sweating. It's about 10 feet of snow on the ground. Temperature dropped about 30 degrees. Hypothermia began immediately. A whole bunch of terrible things happened. We had to traverse in the dark, knowing that we were probably going to die, knowing we would die if we stayed where we were, and knowing we might die if we tried to get off the mountain just because we're doing this in the dark and frostbite and hypothermia and eyeballs freezing and blisters on the fingers from the cold. All sorts of terrible things were happening. So it was a terrible, terrible night. We finally reached the final rappel about 150 feet up. And at this point, we were strapped into the mountain. There were pins in the mountain with rings and carabiners and straps. So we were hooked in for the first time. We weren't going to fall all night long on this vertical cliff. We were always in danger of falling because cold steals your coordination and it steals your cognition. It made me dumber and dumber, and it made my movements more and more difficult and took more and more concentration. So by the time we reached this last rappel, we were in already advanced hypothermic state. The rope got stuck and I couldn't get it free. Tim was to my left. I don't know what time it was. It might have been 3 in the morning, or I don't really know, because I didn't have a watch on. I wasn't really interested in time anyway. I was interested only in survival. But I couldn't get the rope free, and as much as I pulled it, it wouldn't work. And hypothermia continued to advance. Frostbite continued to advance, and eventually, I got so advanced in the hypothermia that I did what most people do is I unzipped my coat. Hypothermic people are often found naked because there's this experience where all of the blood rushes, at least how it happened for me, all of the blood rushed to my core. And I remember thinking, I really need my heart and my lungs and my brain to survive, but I don't really need my fingers and my hands and my feet. I could live without those. And it's totally irrational. And then I got really hot. And so I unzipped my coat, which of course exacerbated the situation. It made me colder. And Tim said, "Zip up your coat." I was like, "I don't care about it." And we weren't really talking much, but we were trying to care for each other because every time we spoke, it took our limited energy from us. So we were pressed hard up against it. We were using up our physical fuel. We had no more food. We had no more water. We were sucking on ice chips and eating snow. And the cold kept getting colder and colder and colder and colder. So the further the night went along, the less capacity we had to survive and the colder it got. So hypothermia, for me, I began to fall asleep. And when I would fall asleep, it was like a curtain dropping, kaboom. And I'd be out. And I'd smack down on the rock, fall, not off the cliff because I was strapped in, smack my helmeted head, wake back up, stand up, pull on the rope. That happened a bunch of times. And then I stood up this last time. And I'm standing there, and I should tell you, it's most beautiful here. There are 10 billion stars in the sky with every different color. There's no light pollution up there. So, and the moon was up, but it didn't drown out the starlight. There was a river down below us we could hear running, and we could see the beauty of the ice fields near us because the moonlight, and it was gorgeous. But I was terrified of not surviving. And then as I stood up this last time, this peace kind of came over me where I recognized I was not going to get out of the situation. I was going to die where I was. And instead of being fearful, I became relaxed. And I think it had to do with having had so many previous mystical experiences that God was never by any name, okay, by any name and no name. God was never a concept for me. Even as a young child, it was a direct experience of wisdom, compassion, beauty, where I'd been taken out of my body and brought into the presence of infinity. And
Wow.
and I could tell you a bunch of stories about that and how this all kind of informed my response to my own death. I was terrified until I realized that I was absolutely going to die and there's nothing I could do about it. And so then this peace came over me, and I stood up this last time, and I had tunnel vision. It came shrinking down, shrinking down, shrinking down, and suddenly it went black. And as it went black, I remember thinking, oh, I must be falling asleep again. But this is weird. I've never seen anything like this before. Thoughts running through my head. And then when it went black, I didn't fall asleep. I became conscious in a way that was similar to the way that I'd been conscious previously in these other out of body experiences. I woke up, but I was confused. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't, and all these other experiences that I'd previously had, or quite a number of them, I was taken immediately. That was how the experience began. I was just grabbed out of my body. And this time I wasn't. I was sort of standing in front of myself, kind of halfway in my body, and the mountain had disappeared. And I thought to myself, well, this is illogical because if I was asleep, I should be lying down, but I feel like I'm standing, but I don't. So I was very confused. And as I'm standing there, halfway out of my body with a hominid shape, so I'm still kind of like a human being, but I also know my brain is behind me. And then suddenly this darkness appeared in front of me, this infinite depth, and a, like a single star, way, way on the other side of the galaxy kind of thing, very, very, very faint, very far away, suddenly became very bright and then rushed across the space in an instant, not faster than the speed of light, just and it communicated. It got bigger and bigger and bigger as it came toward me, and it communicated to me, "You're coming with me. I'm taking you. You belong to me." Not language, but concept. You're coming with me. And I thought, hey, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm staying where I am. I'm not going anywhere. I don't understand. I wasn't angry. I wasn't scared. I was just, wait a minute, I'm confused. And it didn't really matter to this entity who was sort of, I like to say, plucked me like a flower or reached out and snatched me. It was more like a an envelopment. It just took my soul, myself, me, and just grabbed me. And I was resistant up until the very moment that it grabbed me, and then I was enveloped in this like a plasma ball of the size of I don't know, a small star, and I'm inside of this clear energy, and I was sort of locked into space, into this place, but it wasn't imprisonment. It was comfort. It was contentment. It was softness. It was beauty. And it was speaking to me. So it's carrying me back up the way that it came, and it's talking to me without language, but it's energetic communication where I'm being. It's like being on an IV. You're getting an IV, and you don't have enough fluid. You don't have enough nutrition, and suddenly you're like, oh, wow. Yeah, right. This is what I needed all along. And so I'm in this space where I'm being fed beauty and comfort and power, majesty, uncontrolled. I was uncontrollable. I couldn't control myself. It had all power over me. And it was in two places at once. It was this energy ball that had its own consciousness, that had its sort of subset. It was sort of a subset of a larger set, but the larger set was communicating with this subset, and I knew it. I knew that this majesty and beauty and comfort didn't, even though it was overwhelming by a million times greater than anything I'd ever felt, there was a trillion times greater where it was coming from. So I'm being carried up by this energy, and I'm then transported outside of myself. Now in two locations at once. I can see myself inside, shaped like a being of light inside this energy plasma angel, call it an angel or a being of light. But I had another point of view where I had like God's eye point of view. I could see myself inside this energy angelic being. But when I looked, because I had a 360, more than 360, what is it, whatever that is in a spherical sense, I could see in every direction at once. I couldn't see me looking at me, but I could see the outside me looking at me. I can't really explain it other than that. So it carries me up to this edge of this, I'm in this transition space between the worlds, and I get up to this edge, sort of like an atmospheric edge, and and then I'm expelled, or this entity expands. I don't really know how it worked. And suddenly I was in this galactic size emptiness. And I was the energy ball now. I was the sun, the size of our sun. And I was my thinking and my self-understanding, my perceptions were all one thing. It's not like when you prick your finger, your eye doesn't hurt when you prick your finger. It's like everything was one thing. Nothing hurt, okay? I'm in this space of comfort and wellness and being where I fully, absolutely know that this is my higher true self because I'd experienced this previously in my other mystical experiences or something similar, not exactly the same, but enough similarity to know that was, oh, this is me. This is who I've always been. This is my true self. And what I had been had not really ever been me. So I'm in this space, in contentment, seeing in every direction. And there's a limitation to my capacity for vision. It's the size of our galaxy, and I'm like the black hole in the middle of our galaxy. But I'm the only thing in there. I'm not lonely. The energy of the divine is all that there is. I'm in contentment, and but there's an edge to it through which I cannot perceive. There's a greater darkness. So everything is this illuminated darkness. It's like it's all darkness, okay? But it's also like the darkness itself is illuminated. So it has this contradiction to it. So, because I can see in every direction, I'm content, but there's an infinity into which I cannot perceive. And as this is happening, suddenly, and I tell this in a timeline, but there is no time on the other side. I have no reference points other than myself. And so the suddenly there's a light. This light kind of emotes from the edge of this infinity. It comes out of this deeper darkness, and it's suddenly the most beautiful, brilliant, expressive, desirous. I'm lusting after it. I want this thing. It's just so beautiful. And as soon as I see this light, which is ginormous compared to me, and I'm already big, it I my thought is my action, and as soon as I want it, because it's the most beautiful, I'm like in front of it. Boom, I'm right there in front of it, and it's emoting all of this light. And it's like this huge waterfall of light, and it's pure. I say it's light, okay, but it's not. It's not made of photons. It's uncreated light. It's light beyond light, and it's alive. The light itself is life itself, and it's pure white and brilliant white, but it's also simultaneously like all of those millions of colored stars in the sky. It's all these pixelizations of all these different light energies that are visible to human eye, but also all of the invisible ones, all visible to me. And there's a trillion zillion of them, and they're all in this iridescent flow, like light on fish scales. It's like that the tingly, but it's not switching from white light to colored light. It's both at the same time. And that's not odd to me. That's just the reality. And it's also emanating light. And so I'm being struck by it. And I want it. And so I reach out to touch it with my energetic self, like a light tentacle extends, I guess. And as I touch it, I am absorbed into it, and it infills me, and then all these other things begin to happen. I'm able to see that I'm not in the infinity itself. There's a deeper darkness that I'm not inside of. I can still see that infinity is beyond my conceptual ability, and I'm inside of this light. And then this huge eye appears, and this eye sees all of me as I had lived my just previous life. And so I have this experience where I know the creator is creating me in the now. And I understand that it's creating me in the now as it always has been creating me in the now. I hear my creation name spoken, and that which calls me into being, but it's not a human word. It's the essence. The word is me, and it's my soul name as I was uh, manifested from the unmanifested, created from the uncreated. And then I had this eternal nature as a result, but I was also created. And so I made like 99.95% of light, but there are these dark things in me. So this big, huge eyeball is like the size of the sun, and I'm the size of the moon, and it's seeing me, and I know that it's creating me, and it has created me, and I've got these little tiny dark spots inside of me that I realize are not of the light. That I had created them and I tried to hide them. So I kind of collect them in one little bag and I try to hide them from the light. But of course, there's no hiding from the light. Everything is revealed. And so as soon as I tried to, and this crazy thing I did, I was like, I'm going to hide it behind myself. Like I had it behind. Okay. So I'm like trying to put it back here with this mental capacity that I had. And as soon as I collect it and try to move it, the light zones in on it and I'm inside of this little bag of darkness. And in this bag of darkness, I am all of the people that I hurt in a chronological order. I am inside of them. I am them. And I am going through all of the pain that I ever caused in my entire life, like 10,000 episodes. And it's all in a sequence. And I'm inside of every single person that I hurt. And there's repeats because, I hurt my sisters 100 times growing up or 1,000 times, that kind of thing. And so I'm going through all of the times that I hurt every single person. And simultaneously, I am the previous person, Peter. And I'm going through all of the reasons and the emotions that caused me to cause all that pain in this sequence. And I am both people at once. And I'm kind of like being held there by the divine, I don't want to say forced, but I had to, I had no choice in this. And as I go through all of this pain that I caused, and the smallness of all of my reasons became apparent. And they weren't big, they got smaller and smaller and smaller. And the pain that I caused got bigger and bigger and bigger. And so there was this radical disproportionality between the size of the suffering that I caused in the world and my tiny little selfish reasons for causing it. And I was ashamed. I wasn't being judged. There was no judgment. I was just being shown what I had done. And my shame was exacerbated by the intensity of the size of the ultimate love that was loving me as this was going on. So it's like being you got a dog and this dog loves you. It's like slobbering all over you. And you're like, too much, too much, too much, too much. So I'm like, whoa, 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 you're too big, you're too big, you're too big until I turn my vision away from the suffering toward the light itself, and which was irresistible. So even though I was trying to resist, I couldn't resist. The dog eventually got into me, and I kind of, big hug and slobber and kisses on my face, that kind of thing. But the divine was like the size of Mount Everest, and I was a little grain of sand. It was so overwhelmingly powerful that I couldn't resist it. And as soon as I accepted the light, all of my suffering was gone. And it wasn't like it was put in another storage closet somewhere in a box in a warehouse. It was demolecularized. It never existed. And I was then infilled and inflated with this peace and beauty and love and welcome, healing, wholeness, paradise, awe, understanding, wisdom. All of this, the nature of the divine became my nature, and I expanded to the galactic size. Now I'm the size of this galaxy, and I'm still smaller than the light itself. But I am infilled with it. I am it. I have this union experience, or a communion experience, where I still have this little bit of a differentiation. I am still not completely in union because I still have an existence. I'm not Peter. I am bliss and beauty and love, but I am not creator. I'm still created. I'm not fully blended, but it's a union experience where I understood myself to be a portion of God, and but it was in humility. It's not in arrogance. It's in smallness, not in greatness. And as this is happening, I become like this little tiny speck of light where I'm infilled, but I'm also all these things happen at the same time. I am all these things at once, and so I'm this little tiny speck of light, and in front of me is a septillion, bazillion times a quadrillion other little tiny packets of light, little photons, and they're all entangled with each other, and it's like a massive field of the divine being. And I am one of those photonic particles entangled with, and they're all entangled together and they're all separate, but all are unified. So it's an us and them. It's a we and I sort of situation. But I'm not in the field. I'm sort of in front of the field. I'm still in this greater dark space now, and so I'm in the sort of the darkness is behind me. And but I know that I am at one with all of these.
If you're one with those and one with the creator or source, what are those fields of lights?
They are all of the created uh, expression of the infinite darkness manifested into reality. And so, and greater than that, it's not just all of the physical structures of the universe. It's all of that and so much more. And in the midst of all of this, I I want to understand our universe. And so I think to myself, I want to have all knowledge of our universe. And suddenly I'm in the middle of our universe, and I'm this tiny, tiny speck mote in this infinite sized universe. And I understand chemistry and geology and cosmology and physics and quantum physics. It's all like self evident to me. It's not like I figured it out. It's like boom, there's everything, but I still couldn't see how it was created. So there was this. I got the building and the blueprints, but I was not a witness to the architect and the engineer's plans to make it happen. And so I have all this knowledge, I have understanding, and then I see myself as like this tube of existence, and it's sort of below me. Now I'm back in this field with all these photons, and with my kind of back to this darkness, and out of the greater darkness, this tube comes extending, and it's me. It's also me. So I'm this expanded self. I'm this tiny self. I'm this knowledgeable self, and I'm also this tube it is empty for quite a long time, and then inside of it there's all of these like little spheres, these little worlds, and I am all of these little worlds in the sequence, and they're all different looking. They're not like this one and this one are the same, and I am all of these worlds, and they're all of my previous lives, and it's not. They're not, I'm not dead in them. I'm alive in them and all of them. And there's this long sequence of them. And I can see that I was never any one of them. I was always this oversoul. I was always this photonic self. I was always this inflated self. And yet inside of each one of these, I couldn't see myself, my true self. And so I want to see what it's like. And so I ask, can I take a peek? And I'm zoomed down inside one of these worlds. And it's sort of like I describe it as like a big baguette with olives in it, and the olives are these little tiny worlds, but there's also toothpicks. There's all toothpicks in these olives, so there's this connectivity to my higher self soul, even though I'm the olive, and I'm suddenly inside of this life, and I'm walking down this road. I'm a guy. I've got a dark beard. I've got dark skin. I've got hairy feet. I got hairy legs. I got sandals on because I can look down and there's dust around my feet and it's desert like. And I'm walking with a group of guys and we're having this conversation. We're all kind of look the same. We're all kind of same color skin, same kind of dark beards, all dark eyes. But we're having this deep spiritual conversation as we walk toward into a village on the way to a city, wide kind of avenue sort of thing, but it's all dust. And they asked me a question, and I can understand them. They're speaking some ancient language that I don't speak, but I did then, and I felt like I was inhabiting this guy. And as I was listening, and they asked me a question. I was kind of in the front of the pack. Maybe there was 10 or 12 guys there. I turned around and I looked over my shoulder, and as I began to speak, I was pulled out of that body again, and I was placed in an earlier body where I was some kind of like little lizard, and I was prey in a world of predators, and I was hiding in the shadows, perfectly still from some monster, from my point of view, that wanted to eat me. And whether I was on Earth or somewhere else, I have no idea because everything looked differently through these eyes, and I had this super teeny tiny brain. But I was aware that I was also, outside soul self. So when all that was over, I was back in this this galactic-sized space, and I was somehow reduced to a place where I could remember my previous life, my just previous life. And I started asking about, am I dead? And the voice said, yeah, you're dead. I said, well, I can't die now. And the voice said, why? I said, well, because my parents are suffering so much from the loss of my sister. And I was then swept across this dark space into this edge, through this edge. And in this edge space, I kind of poked out into our universe. And I felt like I was still filling up. Now I'm filling up this entire galactic space behind me. And everywhere I went, the divine voice was speaking to me, and it wasn't coming in my ears. It was inside of me. And it wasn't in language, it was in presence, and it was all things around me. So I have this constant awareness that the divine is inside me and outside me and beyond gigantic, and had no gender. It had no religion. It had no sex. It had no language of humanity. It had none of the things that we create with our heads. It has none of those things. It's infinite love and infinite beauty beyond conception, beyond religion and gender and human form or any form. So I'm looking at this universe. My head's kind of poked inside our universe, and I can see the greater darkness. And this, out of this infinity, this light is pouring. This light energy, like Maya, this energy of underneath, inside of everything, and it makes the entire universe in existence. It's this light woven into asteroids and star systems and galaxies, and I can see that it has this multiple layer thing, and way down at the base of it is all of this light energy and all of the matter and what we call energy in this world, electricity and photons and neutrons, all that stuff. It's all kind of above this light, but the light is so deeply inside of it that it's not visible, except for to me. I can see it because it's being shown to me. And out of this darkness, I can see our universe being created, and it's like in its beginning and in its existence. And there's not really a separation between this energy, which is always in the now, creating. And out of this deeper darkness, there's like universe after universe after universe popping out, just flying off into, other places, and just multiple universes. And as I'm watching all of this, my vision is zoomed in on our solar system on Earth in live time. And I can see every single human being alive, and inside of every single human being, and some are sleeping, and some are at war, some are making love, and some are having babies, and some are doing drudgery work. And I can see every single person. And inside of them is this brilliant golden light. And this brilliant golden light is this like a gold fleck. And the whole planet is covered with like a foam or a fog, which prevents everybody from seeing it. I can see that they can't see it, but I can see it. And I can see that everyone is utterly and absolutely beloved. The whole structure of this universe, and all of these universes popping out, and the dark infinity into which I cannot see, all of it becomes like a laser beam focused on me, and it's expressing to me the immensity. It's showing me the immensity of its unconditional, infinite love. That also all of this is like, I am the most beloved that there is in all creation that has ever been, and simultaneous to that, so is everybody else. And so this great love that I feel for myself, I know is in absolutely every single person. And that the voice says to me without language, nothing is lost. No one is lost. I cannot lose anything because I am love, and I love myself. I am love itself, and all creation is made from my love. And so there's this immense, unspeakable power of, a love that pervades everything. And as I'm watching, I zoom down. I get zoomed down into a ship, in the middle of the South Atlantic, and it's an American Navy vessel, and I enter into like the quarters of the captain, and I can see inside of him this glowing light, and I follow him up onto the to the bridge, and I see inside of all these warriors. They're all warriors, and they have light and love inside of them, and it's plain to see to me. And I know that they can't see me. I'm like a ghost following them. And then I'm pulled out of that and I see my parents. So I'm way above earth again. And I see my parents, mom and dad, kind of rise up in their real time. And they are, I, they are broken. I see their emotions and their psychology, and I see their lives without me, and there's like total nuclear destruction in their lives, not like nuclear war, but like their lives get totally blown apart. My mom ends up very broken, and my dad ends up very broken, and the whole family broken. And then there's another set of my parents rise up, and their life with me, and there's this comparison, and with me is a lot less pain, without me is a greater amount of pain, and I can see the end of their lives. And in the end of their lives, on both streams, they come to the same bliss that I'm in. And so I know that all's well, and all will be well, and all has been well for me and for them and for everybody, but them in particular. And the voice is saying, come home, come home, come home, but you have a choice. You can stay and be in this bliss and know that your parents are going to be totally good in the end, or you can go back and know that your parents are going to be totally good in the end. Makes no difference. And so, in terms of their eternity, but not in terms of their life. And so I think to myself, I am an eternal being. Being mortal is a snap of the fingers in terms of time. And I say telepathically, if I go back, can I come back to this paradise? And the voice says, yes, you come back to me. You welcome you back inside of me. You be in the same place of love and beauty. And so I say, well, then I choose to live my life. And the voice says, you won't live your life, and throws me out. And I am back inside of this angelic being, and I'm kind of getting denser and denser. So I'm no longer this ethereal plasma. I'm sort of becoming this light body again. And in front of me, there are a million doorways, and all of them lead back to the same body, but not to the same existence. The same. I have choices to make of who I want to be, and so I want to be. I'm told to choose the light. In the middle of all of these doorways, there's this huge beam of light coming out of the greater darkness. And it's like this monstrous laser beam of pure white light. And it radiates out to the edges of these doors. All of them are in the light. It's faded out to the outside edges. It's intense in the middle. And the voice says to me from beyond heaven and through this angelic being, choose light, choose a life. And I know that it wants me to choose the purity of the light itself. But I think, well, if I'm going back with this mission to be a spokesperson for the light and the eternal nature of our being, how are people going to understand me if I'm just pure light? I can't do that. I've got to have like some flaws. So I choose. I want to be a writer. I want to be able to talk to. I was working in construction, so I was working with all these blue collar guys. How can I talk to these guys? I got to be able to be wicked human. And so I make this series of choices in an instant, and I go down this tunnel that of my choice. That's not in the center of the light, but not far from it. It's still there's an intensity to it. And I go down this tunnel, and in this tunnel, there are all these doorways, and all these doorways lead to all these other tunnels, all these other passages. And I have this experience of this huge field of probability. And I get to the end of this tunnel, and there's my body. And this, I don't know it's me though, because I have no association with this thing. It's just an object that I'm dispassionately observing. And there's another object, a human being, I can see shaking this other person. And suddenly this angelic being pierces the chest of the first, this prone person, and opens it up and kind of crushes me like an aluminum ball and sticks me inside. and I unfold inside of this body, and now I'm contained. Now it feels like I'm in a prison, and I can see there's this opening in the chest area where I can see this angelic being, and it's well, I can just see it. And as I look at it, the eye closes, and I am my brain comes back online, and I become a human being again, wondering why I chose to come back. I came back an entirely different person. And to skip ahead, I had another near-death experience in 2015 of a heart attack. It's a thing that runs in my family. It's killed a bunch of the family members in their 50s. And some people have survived because of modern technology, others haven't. And so I had this heart attack. I was in the ambulance on the way to the catheterization lab. I live in a rural place. It's an hour and a half drive. By the time I got in the ambulance, I was already outside my golden hour of survivability. I had 100% blockage in my widowmaker, and they had given me some kind of decoagulant to make a trickle through of blood. Maybe I'd survive, but they didn't think so. And so I died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. And as I'm using meditation to control my pain because I can't take opiates; they make me sick. So I'm meditating, using my practice to stay above my pain. And I hear the EMT paramedic say, "We're losing him. We're losing him. We're losing him." And I open my eyes and I see her face, and she's like, "Oh my God, we're going to lose this guy." And she went right back to her game face, but the pain was so great that I had to go back in to meditate, because I couldn't take the pain. It's like an elephant on my chest. And so as I went back inside, I was outside of my body. My body was more like a cave, a dark cave, and I was out in front of it. And the same angelic being comes flying down toward me. Only this time it's a multiplicity. It's one, but it's like speaking in us language. Come to us. We've been waiting for you. It's your time. We love you, and all this kind of stuff. And it's all telepathic, and it rushes down toward me. And I need to stop and say, between my first NDE and my second NDE, I was always saying after I came out, I'm not afraid of dying. And so this particular day, as I died, I was excited. Even though I was leaving my family behind, I was like, I'm finally going home. So I was not afraid at all. This angelic being comes to me. It doesn't snatch me out of my body. I'm already out of my body. And we start to go, and it doesn't envelop me. We start to leave parallel. So I'm next to it. And if we had hands, we'd be holding hands, kind of skipping. We're like, hey, it's time to go. And then I thought, oh, my family, maybe they're not ready yet. Because in the ER, pardon me, the emergency wasn't an ER, it was the urgent care center where I was. My son was there, and he had leaned into me, holding my hand. He's in his late 20s, and he leans in, and he looks in my eyes, and he says, "I love you, Dad." And so I before we get too far, I kind of reflect on this. Oh, my son, is he ready for me to leave? And so I kind of, wait, hold on a second. I kind of go back in the cave, and I look around, and I see my son, and I can see I can see into his emotional life, into his unpreparedness for the departure of his dad. He still needs me. I see my daughter, who's a couple years older. She's unprepared. I see my granddaughter. She had just left a domestic violence marriage, and we had rescued her with the brand new baby. And I could see my daughter needed me for protection, and I could see my granddaughter had these parallel lives, and she was less than a year old. I could see her with me and without me, and she was fine in both. But with me, she was much better off. And so because I was like the dad guy. And so I turned around and went back out, and I said to the angelic being telepathically, who had retreated a bit, giving me some space, came rushing back. Come on, come on, come on. I said, if it's all the same to you, I'm going to go back inside and stay. And I just turned around and went back in. And I woke up at the catheterization lab as I was getting unloaded. And I could tell you more about that, but that's the essence of it. Every mystical experience left me transformed. My near-death experiences had an intensity that outweighed all of my mystical experiences. They were transformative as well, but after my first ND, I became an entirely different person. Same body, same brain, same language, same abilities and disabilities, but my perception of myself was always and remains always in my own eternal nature. And so I know that I'm known by the knower with a capital K. And I know that I am pre-existent and will live beyond my body, and that I will go home again to from whence I came. And that shift alone, among all the other shifts, provided me with this perception of the same for everybody else. And so my behaviors and decisions became 100% based on that, and not at all based on the social expectations or familial expectations of what I should be and who I should become. And that created some divisions and difficulties in my family. And it didn't eliminate all of the trauma wounds that I had. I still carried those trauma wounds. I've spent a lot of my life trying to unpack those things. But my self-perception completely informs my perception of the world to this day. And I know that I live in a different world than everybody around me. And I masked myself for a very long time. I didn't tell anybody about what happened to me for close to 20 years. Well, not anybody. I told my wife on the day after we got married, and I told her, we're lying in bed together, and I said to her, I need to tell you this. And I told her what happened to me, and I told her that because I couldn't tell her before, because I was afraid she was going to leave me. Now that she was married to me, I felt like I had to tell her and give her the opportunity to leave me before the marriage went any further. She decided to stay. We're still married, have kids and all that stuff. I didn't go into the family business. I didn't go to grad school in architecture, as has long been planned. And I ended up going to divinity school to study mysticism, which they don't really teach, but it is an alternative to going in the monastery. And the school I went to had enough mystical experience. I was in divinity school, so religion was accessible to me. So I studied deeply in the East and the West as an independent study under the dean for 3 years. Masters of Divinity are 3-year masters. And so 3 years under the dean doing independent studies, including finding deep practices of Kriya Yoga and deepening my meditation life. I came back with this extra dose of prana, of chi, of whatever, Holy Spirit energy, whatever people want to call it, which is like a perception for me. So my seeing and my smelling and my tasting on the other side were one entity, one perception that came back with me. So what I see light inside of people, inside of everything that there is, especially things that are alive, but also inside of iPhones and keyboards. It's more like a feeling and a touching and a smelling and a seeing and all at once. Is an energy field that's perceivable to me. And I also knew that nobody else could see it. And so I didn't want people to think I'm crazy. I come from this pretty intellectual family, and I didn't want to be, even though they're religious, I didn't want to be misperceived or sent to some kind of insane asylum. And so I kept it a secret, and I decided that I needed to find out who I had become, and maybe there were other people in the history of the world that were like me. And this is pre-internet. So all I had was libraries and books. So that's why I studied mysticism, because I found that the year that I came back, the first year, I found Rumi and the Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita, which I just finished the Yoga Sutras again. I've read them a bunch of times. I'm in the middle of rereading the Bhagavad Gita again, which I couldn't do as a church minister because I didn't want to be found out. So I was right. So I kind of hid inside the church, and I focused my studies in the ancient Western literature of ancient mysticism, and I figured the ancients, everybody's like, "Have you read this new book?" I'm like, "No, I haven't read that book. No, I probably won't," because I figure, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think it's true, that ancient mystical texts that stand the test of time are more reliable because they stood the test of time, because so many people, hundreds of thousands of people have found value in these. I was more likely to find value that's usable, practical value either in my self-understanding or in the application of the practices that could actually help me get back to where I had been, which is what I wanted. I was bereft and alone in this world. I was isolated. I was an alien. I felt like I had to be careful every single day. I couldn't ever tell people that I could see their auras or their light. I couldn't tell people that I could feel their emotions and understand their psychology. I could, because it was not because I was reaching out for it. It was just like permeating me. Like I'd meet people and I'd like this huge, overwhelming, not of their emotional state in such a way that I couldn't tell where I ended and they began. And so my desperation for return to heaven, because I felt like I made a mistake and I was pretty angry about it, drove my interior practice, because only when I was non-attached to my own identity, my human identity, only when and this is still true, when I was able to enter into the state of silence and quietude, was I myself again, and found a way to be in the peace that I lack here. I could create a space inside myself by negation of self, by stepping aside, not by grasping at the light itself, not by trying to pull it in, but by just getting out of the way of the presence, that I was able to develop to deepen the connection to my origin with a capital O, so that I could function in the world. Because I found it really difficult to integrate into the world. I tried pretty hard to like pretend that this didn't happen and just pretend I was a regular person, and I couldn't. And so I found that by leaning interiorly, that's where I found my balance in the world. So it's funny how, in martial arts, you sometimes backweight your back foot so that you have fluidity in your front foot. So I was backweighting myself into heaven so that I could function in the world, which was counterintuitive to me. I found that I studied Paramahansa Yogananda and the Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita and a bunch of other stuff, East and West, and I found that this energy that came back with me, this extra dose, this extra blessing or grace, which I didn't deserve and didn't ask for, just came back with me, was physically experiential to me. So there's this. My hands are like this huge eyeballs. You've seen the palm, right? So it's like I see with my hands the light energy of every living thing that I encounter. And so in my yoga practice, I began yoga because I was studying mime in Marcel Marceau's school at my university, descendants of his teaching, and Marcel taught yoga. And so I began my yoga practice, Hatha Yoga, back in '80, and I found that it intensified my capacity for the feeling of this energy, and I knew that it was a new sensory perception for me that was useful to me, and so in my yoga practice, I found that the deeper instead of using my chant for my meditation, I used my physical body for my chant by focusing on my muscular tension, relaxation, and skeletal structure. And the more I practiced feeling my physical body, the more I was able to feel my subtle body. The more I felt my subtle body, the more I was able to locate the chakras and the smaller energy centers and begin to put my mind inside of them, not with imagination of what they are or knowledge of what they're supposed to do, but just being in the space itself. I found that the reality of these energy centers could be over time connected to each other and create one much larger sphere of space in which I have come to live. I've not been in pursuit of the physical. I've been in pursuit of the oneness of being. And the result of these practices create this energetics field that I live in. It's not because I wanted this thing. That's not my desire. My desire is to be in the oneness because that's all that there is. The reality is so much greater. The interior world is so much greater than the exterior world.
Why do you think we're here then?
That we all kind of made a deal of some kind and chose into this life. And I knew that my purpose was early on to work for God, whatever that meant. however that manifested itself. Now, why are we here? I was just reading the Bhagavad Gita again that there's a potential for the accrual of light in this lifetime. And that resonates with me because the as I continue on my interior journey and strip away my attachment to myself that prevents the light from being there, I have in other mystical experiences and an ongoing experience because of these other ones of the continuation of the stripping away of the layers of not God, even on the other side. And so the more light the more I step out of the way and the more light that accrues into me, the closer I come to the infinity itself. And that's the desire of my heart. And so from my point of view, it's not just human beings who are in the great forgetting. Okay, it's grizzly bears and chickadees. It's a great, it's storks and oak trees. The whole thing is, and it's not just human beings and our planet. It's gigantic. It's our galaxy and the what is I read the other day, billions and tens of billions of stars and tens of trillions of planets. And then there's a trillion galaxies. So it's not just us in this great forgetting. It's the whole structure of the universe is this manifestation of the divine in a physical form. And so human beings make this huge mistake of me, my, mine. And so why is it all about me and why am I here? It's not about you at all. I am an expression of the divine experiencing itself in this world through everybody. And I've come to understand, and I think this is true for everybody, but I don't want to put the burden on people, is that the purpose of light is to bring light here into this world. And to be a light bearer in the world and bring more light into the world, but also to continue to strip away that which separates me from the infinite itself. In the action of being created as a soul, there's a separation from the fullness of the divine. It's still made in the now, part of, without separation, kind of the Atman Brahman situation, right? And so that's I talk about the Gita because of all of the books that I've read, and I've read hundreds and hundreds of ancient spiritual texts, all the Dead Sea Scrolls, all the Nag Hammadi texts, all in translation, of course, because I don't, because that's the way it is. But of all these books, the Bhagavad Gita leans more closely to my direct experience of the divine. And so, why are we here? I'm here to bring light into myself, into the world, into a accrue light for my actual life, which is on the other side.
You talked about Jesus.
Yeah.
The Christ that you came to know is different from the Christ that you learned about here. So, how did you come to know him? Is this the analogy of the source that you met, or did you just know when you were on the other side?
The light was the light was the light, and nothing was separate from the light. I know a lot of near-death experiencers. Jesus shows up as a person. Jesus didn't show up for me as a person. And in terms of my Catholicism and Greek Orthodoxy, I wasn't forgiven before. You're supposed to, get the unction of the oil in order to forgive you of your sins before you die. Well, that didn't happen to me. I was completely not judged on the other side, and I was 100% forgiven. And so not only did Jesus not show up, there was reincarnation and there was forgiveness on the other side. So I was, the year after I came back, I was an English major and I went into I went to a big university. And in my English department, there was a comparative religion section of the department, comparative literature. It was comparative literature. And so I took this class in comparative mystical literature, East and West.
Oh, wow.
And it was great. And
Yeah.
I still actually have the books. And this book This book, I'm going to flip to this page. Mysticism, a study in the nature and development of man's spiritual consciousness by a brilliant scholar named Evelyn Underhill. Evelyn Underhill was an early 20th century scholar. She was freaking brilliant. This book, Mysticism, the study of the nature and development of man's spiritual consciousness, became my understanding of myself, because in this particular book she covers psychology and mysticism and theology and characteristics, and I was like, oh my god, this person helps me understand me. So i I to swing around to your question, is that why are we here? What's the point of being here? From a selfish point of view, from my individual point of view, this is a beautiful hellscape that we live in. And it's not just Earth, it's the whole place is violently beautiful. But from my higher self point of view, none of this really matters. My human existence, one of the things I saw when I was dead is that my human existence does not matter in the size of the universe, the age of the universe at all. I am nothing, zero, zippo. There's nothing at all. But my soul self, that is who I actually am. So my emphasis in my life has become the focus on my soul self. The benefit of that to me, for me, is freedom, freedom and courage. The difficulty for that for me is I didn't go into something that I could make money in. and, and so
Yes.
it's been a financial difficulty. The But why are we here? It's not about us, not about me.
Yeah, thanks for that answer.
So I work in a prison now. So I work in a supermax prison in Maine as the chaplain, and these guys are actually in prison, and they are out of control of their lives. And the guys who are doing well in prison are the guys who have accepted the situation that they're in and are using their brains to better themselves. They can't control their clothes. They can't control when they get out of bed. They can't control when they have meals or what they eat, but they can control their own minds. And that's a very similar perspective to what I adopted. I can't change the thing. How can I find what I need? And so I dropped my fists. I stopped. When I finally, and it took me a long time. It wasn't like overnight. I had this long depression, of decades of depression, as I integrated by myself, because this is pre-internet. Like, I didn't know anybody like me. So all my peers were all dead people from other centuries around the world, people I could understand, where I thought were like me. And my depression and desire to go home expressed itself every day as I would meditate and do my yoga and my interior journey and my studies. But I would pray every single day to die. Take me home today. Today's a good day to die. Don't make me stay here in this place. And then when I died again, the second time, I chose to come back, and my desire to die went away. Not like I'm afraid of death. I'm not. It's just like I don't need to go home now. Uh, heaven has come to me now. Heaven is a presence for me that has it enables me to live a life of service in such a way that my ministries, I was a Congregational United Church of Christ minister. I was hiding in the church because it was the only. I was like, how am I going to practice yoga and meditation and study and earn a living and help people? I know, I'll go to the church. And so that's what I did. The dean talked me into it. And so, and then when I tried to get out of it, I got prevented because we got pregnant. I was like, I'm done with this thing. I'm going to do something else, and I had to stay. So, the the presence of the physical experience and perception of the presence of the divine inside myself and all people give me this capacity for uh, a willingness to be in dangerous and difficult situations, because I know you can't kill me. And so I I've only begun this ministry with these prisoners. And by the way, it's the first job I've ever had in my life where I've 100% come out of the closet. So when I was a congregational minister, I lied at my ecclesiastical council where they asked me if I was a Christian and believed in all the theology. I'm like, yep. And I did not. And I'm hiding reincarnation behind me, and so my professor in that comparative literature class, I went to him for a counseling session. I said, I've got this friend who had this mystical experience. I was lying, okay, like I'm
Yeah, I
switch on a
know.
mask, and it's a woman, and so it's like they're not even it's not me, and
Right,
it's a
right.
woman. It's not even a guy, and she's trying to figure out how to deepen her experience, and she wants to know whether she should go to an ashram or a zendo. And he said, is she Christian in culture? I said, yes, she was raised in Christianity. He said, inside of Christianity there is mysticism, and if she wants to actually not have to learn Sanskrit or Japanese in order to advance her spiritual life, she should just stay where she is, because she'll find inside of Christianity the deepest mysticism that she would find in an ashram somewhere. Because inside of the mystical literature, one mountain, all paths lead to the same peak. So I decided to stay in Christianity, and when I was in divinity school reading the Bible, Jesus was like, I was like, oh my gosh, he's like me. He's like, make your eye single and your body will be filled with light. Go inside your temple and close your door, and don't be like the Pharisees praying on the street. Pray inside yourself. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing all that
The
stuff.
kingdom of God is within.
The kingdom of God is within. Set heaven above all things, and all things will be added unto you. And that's that's one of the biggest mistakes that spiritual people make, is that they set their goals, their gifts. They want the psychic ability. They want these accoutrements, these external accoutrements, and then you might get one, but you might only get that one, and you might miss out on this heaven within. If you practice what Jesus was teaching, you discover that all these gifts come unto you. You get all these other things by not wanting them, by wanting only the one thing. All these other things, seek heaven above all things, and all these will be added unto you. And it's not like a car and a bank account. It's like treasures of heaven. And it's turned out to be true in my life.
When you were told to come home, what would you be doing home versus here?
No, no, I, in between, so I had all these mystical experiences, um, and they're like textbook kind of mystical experiences, not like the minor ones that I have, like everybody has all the time, like precognition or this, serendipity, those sorts of things. They In one of my mystical experiences, in between my first and second NDE, I was taken out of myself again, and in this experience, I was journeying through layers of dimensions, and I was an orb of consciousness, a plasma ball, so to speak, and in each. I was being pulled. I wasn't making this happen. And in each level that I was passing through into the higher dimension, another layer of my what turned out to be created order. I want to say I don't mean artifice, because that's a negative word, but they're like layers that aren't me that got peeled off. And in every one of these higher dimensions, I felt like, oh, this is it. I finally have reached this highest level. And then I'd be in the next one, and more of me would be stripped away, and more of me would be stripped away, until I think that there is nothing left of my separateness as a created being, separate from creator. And so I'm continuing to journey toward the infinite, toward the greater darkness, which also the Bhagavad Gita talks about. And as I journey towards this, I become more who I am. And so it's not like, and maybe this is true for other people. I don't know. All I know is what happens to me is that in Christianity, there's the scenes of you're hanging out on a cloud playing a harp, and you're kind of grooving on the piece, and then you're with a bunch of people. That's not what happened to me. What happens to me is that my journey is back into the unmanifested itself. And that's my desire, and that's my goal. That's where I'm headed. And so, as here, as above, so below, as I travel, as I strip away more attachment to myself here, as I create more space for the light to be here with me, the further I travel toward the infinite simultaneously. So this journey of my soul isn't separate from my experience here. And what I don't know is that in all my previous lives, whether that was happening too, that may have been what was going on. I don't know. All I know is what I understand. And I try not to say what I don't know.
Wow, that was just amazing.
I think that everyone who has a near death experience has a kind of shattering. I was talking to one of the residents, we call them, not inmates. I was talking to one of the residents who had a had a near death experience. He was shot 6 times, and he died on the street in front of his house with his aunt watching. And he's a really pretty strict Christian. And when he told me about his experience, I said to him afterwards, he went out of his body. He could see his body. He could see his aunt. He kind of traveled up the tunnel, and then he was told to go back. And I said to him, "So, what do you think you gathered from that?" And I led him along a little bit to help him understand what my question was. And he finally said that I am not my body, that my consciousness exists outside of my body, and that my body is something I inhabit temporarily. And that understanding shattered his self perception. And so the shatterings that occur in mystical experiences are that your belief in what you are no longer sustains you. It shows you that it's false. And in one of my mystical experiences following this, I had a shattering where I was in divinity school. A long story, but I'll just talk about the shattering. Is that after this super intensive Kundalini moksha experience, where I was no longer existent, all there was light, and I had no identity in the light. The light had its own identity. And after this experience happened, it was at a car wreck. I was trying to save somebody's life. And 3 days later, as this experience continued, at the very end of it, I was in this theology class, sitting up front, and suddenly, and it was the first class I was able to attend in 3 days because I stopped talking. It's this whole thing. My wife was petrified, and so I felt like my mind was this big, huge glass vase, like this big, huge glass vase that was smashed. It was smashed in a million pieces, and I could feel my identity become fragmented. I was all of these individual pieces of this fragmentation. I was like I could see all these different parts of myself, and I was in all of these parts of myself, and then it was this crashing of myself, and then in the reassembly of it, a whole lot of pieces disappeared. They weren't there anymore. These aspects of myself were gone, and it reassembled in a smaller form, in a better pattern, in a new identity. And so, after every single one of my mystical experiences, including my NDEs, my identity shifts. Like, I still have the same brain, I still have the same body, but my self understanding of the nature of my character and my persona becomes well less in the way. And the difficulty is that these aren't practical in the world. NDEs, mystical experiences, they're not practical at all. They separate one from one's family, one's spouse, one's kids, because I become further and further. And that has been a theme in my life. And last night at dinner, I'm working in the prison now, and I'm working with people. And apparently my wife were pretty concerned over the last 5 or 6 years, where I was doing this not church and doing much more intense in my interior life, that I was becoming further and further and further away from humanity. I was more and more existing only inside the presence of the divine, which is not really my job here. My job here is to interact with people, and but I can't interact with people without having this intensity. So I've been on this loop: intensity, world. And so the downside of these shatterings are that they tend to separate me from people I love. The upside is that when I re-engage, I'm more capable of being present and loving. And so they're blessings and curses. I think the greatest difficulty is living in a world where I see what other people don't see, and I don't want to hurt people. So I'm working with 22 religions in this prison, and
What? 22?
22, and some of them I don't know anything about, and I've studied religion my whole life. Okay, so it's like, oh, what is Ifa? I don't know much about Brujeria. What's going on with Santorinians and all these things, and lots of different things. And so I'm trying to support these men in their spiritual belief without me interfering on their journey. It's not up to me. And so part of the shattering includes the capacity for seeing the light inside of others with intensity and their brokenness the same as me. And so to allow people to be who they are without trying to impose my ideas or will upon them. And I think that comes from a humility that comes along with mysticism. If you read across mystical literature and you look at Arjuna in particular, we're talking the Gita, he becomes humble through this whole process. Humility, which means non-attachment to egoic self, becomes the MO, the modus operandi, the modus operandi of deep mystical experiencers throughout the world. And so the shattering, if it's nurtured, and this is part of the problem with a lot of NDEs and other spiritual experiences, including psychedelics, with which I have experience, that you have this mystical experience, and then your egoic mind attaches to it, and then you become braggadocio. You become self-centered. My way of being is the way of being. My understanding is the way it is. And come follow me. That's not what it is at all. And so all of these mystical experiences, whatever they are, from my point of view, are aided through a practice of non-attachment to self. And that creates this humility in the world. When I was in the presence of the divine in one of my experiences, I was a no thing. And compared to this monstrously large, magnificent, that could be scary to people, but it could be interpreted that way by people who don't understand. But it can be frightening to people. And I had this experience where the divine was so AWE, wondrous and magnificent, that it was a fearful place. And in this fearful place, I was never under threat. It's just so freaking big. Then I was so super tiny and no thing that I came back with this understanding of my non-essentialness. And so the shattering, if it's nurtured, can create a humility that then makes it actually usable in the world. The less I'm in the way, the shatterings help the light have more cracks through which to show.
Peter, I have three quick questions. What brings you joy and laughter these days?
Working in the prison, and I'm smiling a lot. I'm smiling a lot. I feel like I know that they hired me because of my near-death experience, which is a weird thing, right?
Really?
So in my state, I work for the state prison. I became famous in my state because I was on television as the TV minister, telling a story every day on a couple of NBC stations. So by the time I applied for this job, they already knew who I was. And I was out of the closet, an NDE. So I applied for the job as an NDEer, and because I'm not masking anymore, and I'm able to be myself and my community, that makes me happy. That means like I don't have to hide at
Yes.
all anymore.
Uh, what would you tell young Peter?
Accept your role for who you are. Aim your heart at the divine. Follow the path wherever it leads.
Beautiful. And what final message or blessing do you have for those listening?
I'm going to quote the Beatles: "All you need is love." You don't have to. If you have a meditation life, that's great. That's going to help you out. It's going to help you grow faster. But really, all you need to do is learn to love others, love thy enemy as thyself, and love thyself above all things. And that one singular love, with which one can learn to love oneself, can then love other people. And that doesn't mean being a doormat like a domestic violence situation. You don't have to be. You don't have to take it from the bully. What it means is that you can love people and not hate them. You can love yourself and not hate yourself. And love is the only treasure of life. It's what came back with me to the other side. I carried all the love that was given to me and all the love I gave away, and it was my passport into heaven. And that's it. Love.